joined by Matt Welch. He's the editor-at-large for the libertarian Reason magazine. Matt, welcome to Planet America.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Matt, before we talk about whether Jeff Sessions is going to launch a federal crackdown on state marijuana laws, I guess we should talk about whether Jeff Sessions is going to be in a position to do that. Is he going to have a job after what's been going on the last day or so?
Unless there is some new revelation, like a transcript of the discussion that he had with the Russian ambassador, and that transcript turns out to be much different than how he characterized it at today's press conference, I don't see any reason why Jeff Sessions won't have a job. You would need to convince a lot of Republicans that how he behaved was improper and that his testimony amounted to perjury in order to get any movement. And right now, I don't see any Republicans really going that far. I think Democrats are getting out a little over their skis on this one and trying to connect dots that haven't yet been connected. So I think he's going to stay in his job.
Do you think that, given that we saw the clip of the congressional testimony when Al Franken sort of tossed a question at him and he said that he hadn't had contact with the Russians since then, he's been, it seems, a little bit lawyerly in his language, saying that, I didn't talk about the campaign, but not denying that there was contact. Is that going to be good enough?
You know what? It's really hard to get a perjury conviction going, especially with a former colleague of senators here. So, and today he apologized for that and said that he should have answered differently and he should have discussed his contacts and his meetings and disclosed those things. Yes, what he said was wrong and wasn't particularly honest, and that is definitely problematic. But to rise to the level of a perjury investigation, I don't think that we're going to see that.
In lieu of any leak of the discussion that was had with the Russian ambassador, I mean, in a way, it would seem strange that the first senator to endorse Donald Trump, a top campaign surrogate for him last year, would meet with the Russians and not talk about the campaign.
Well, yes, and also, he was a very key early backer of Donald Trump. And these meetings happen in a backdrop of a lot of investigations about Russian ties into the election or influence and ties to the Trump campaign. And there's a lot of media discussion of it, too. So probably the campaign did come up during the conversation. And he has said as much at this point in the press conference. The question will be, was it central to the conversation in a way that goes beyond how he characterized it? That meeting was taped. I mean, there's just no way that it's not. You're not going to not have not just the CIA or other people recording conversations with Russian ambassadors if it at all took place in a place where there's going to be recording. So unless Sessions is mischaracterizing something that he probably should know is on tape, I don't think it's going to be enough. We're going to have this as an ongoing scandal throughout Trump's presidency for sure. And the fact that today there was reporting, I think, from the New York Times that there was a previously undisclosed meeting between Michael Flynn and Jared Kushner with the Russian ambassador as well in December. So we're going to keep hearing a drip of revelations here. And Sessions is very cozy with Russia in terms of kickstarting relations with that country. I think there's at the very least an alignment of interests in a way that should alarm people who are troubled by Vladimir Putin. But I don't think that the scandal right now is enough to get Sessions out of his job.
OK, so let's assume he keeps his job. Next question is, does a guy named Jefferson Beauregard Sessions of the great state of Alabama really want to start trampling on states' rights by imposing federal law on marijuana in places like California?
His desire would be to do that, but he is up against a very real resource issue here. So he would have to redirect a lot of enforcement resources to prosecuting this fight. I have a hard time believing he would do that. I think they're more likely to go in around the margins, and this is troubling and bad enough, but dealing with questions like finance and the ability to access capital and the way that tax filings among people who are in the marijuana businesses, I think we're likely to see prosecutions there, and we're likely to see a very robust defense against that and kind of rebellion against that, and it'll be interesting to watch. From a libertarian point of view, which is where I'm coming from, it's completely disheartening. It's one of many reasons why I found both the Democratic opposition to Sessions' confirmation, the way that they went about it, and also the Republican side of affirming him to be very disheartening. disheartening. He was, to me, the most troubling member of the incoming cabinet by far, and he has a very important position, and his ideas are at odds with people like Rand Paul and Mike Lee, Republicans who are good on civil liberties issues, and yet no Republican stood up and got in his way, and I find that to be very disheartening.
We have also seen, Matt, the way in which marijuana was equated to other harder drugs, treated that way under law, also seen as very much a gateway drug to other harder substances like heroin. Do you think now the mainstreaming of marijuana is at such a point that that has been decoupled in the public mind and the legislators' minds? Or given the potency of hydroponics and so on, are we going to continue to see marijuana treated with a bunch of other drugs?
Both Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions believe in the gateway drug theory and also believe that it's a short path from there to the heroin epidemic. And it's this weird disconnect, right? So for the most part, the country has moved on marijuana and understands it accurately as the only popular illicit drug out there. I mean, people just don't do, even though heroin use and mixture of heroin with other things is up, and deaths related to that is up, but it's just not used in anything like those kind of numbers. Half of people, adults born after World War II, including me, have used marijuana. It's just a pretty standard drug. So Americans understand that the prohibition on that is dumb, which it is. But at the same time, we're going through this, I think, panic about the so-called heroin epidemic, which a lot of it is based on it's being mixed and with other more dangerous drugs, and it's a black market a problem as per usual with prohibition. And so those two things are kind of at conflict with one another. People are demanding a crackdown or some kind of big response to the heroin epidemic while also wanting there to be a relaxation on pot rules. Those things are at tension just from a logical point of view, and it remains to be seen how that's going to play out among both public opinion and of politicians.
Good to talk to you, Matt. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.